We continue our discussion on the interior point method and discuss some of the practical aspects. So, practically, if you observe the interior point method, for example, in CVX, for n between 100 to 1000, for general problems with, let's say, no special structure, if the special structure is present, then this scale gets increased a bit. The interior point method would converge in 10 to 20 iterations. So these are the outer iterations, and then inside every iteration, so for every value of t we are running the Newton method, right? So that Newton method typically takes 5 to 6 iterations. So these are the inner iterations. So 5 to 6 Newton iterations times 10 to 20 outer loop iterations. So this is the total number of, so if we multiply, we would get 100, or we would get actually 50 to 20 to 120 Newton steps. So this is the number of times we have to solve that equation Ax equal to b. And this is basically the overall running complexity of this algorithm for small to moderate size problems. For even for slightly larger problems, it may take a longer time, larger number of Newton steps, larger number of iterations, and to some extent a control over this quantity is possible by changing mu. So mu decides how fast t changes, and as a result it also decides how many Newton iterations occur. So what happens is that if you change t very aggressively, if you change t by a lot, let's say you take mu equal to 100, you change t by 100 times at every iteration, then there are a lot more Newton iterations required for each iteration to converge. And if you change t very slowly, then the Newton iterations required are very few, but the outer iterations required are very large. Right? So this is an interesting aspect here. So there is a trade-off between the outer iterations and the inner iterations. If mu is large, then there are many Newton steps per t, and if mu is small, then there are many outer iterations. In fact, if we plot the duality gap, so let's plot the duality gap on the y-axis. So let's say this is the gap and this is the number of Newton steps. So if I increase mu very aggressively, what will happen is that the gap would look something like this. So I'm just plotting the gap at every outer iteration. So gap would look something like this. So each time gap decreases by a lot because mu is very high, so t increases at a very large rate. So there is a lot of change in t, because of which the gap, which depends on m by t, also reduces a lot. So this is how the gap would reduce. So this is, for example, for mu equal to 100. On the other hand, if I take mu equal to 2, then there would be a lot of outer iterations. So the gap would reduce something like this. So there will be, the staircases would be much smaller. Right? So the gap would reduce something like this. So this is for the case when mu equal to 2. And the intermediate case is actually of interest, when the gap reduces by some amount but not by a large amount. So in that case is when we see the convergence is overall the fastest. Right? So that's why I said that 10 to 20 is the usual amount that softwares have for most problems. So these are some of the practical aspects. There's one more thing that we have not discussed, which is that an interior point method in initialization is required. So interior point method must start with a feasible x. So it must start with a feasible x, which means that we need to run a phase 1 Newton method, which means that, phase 1 interior point method. So interior point method we'll implement 2 times. First for phase 1, second for phase 2. The phase 1 interior point method solves this problem. Minimize s subject to fi of x less than equal to s over x and s. So it will first solve this problem. This problem is really all about finding the interior most point, so that it is a good starting point. So this would be solved again using an IPM, right, and will give us the initial point, and this initial point would then be used in phase 2. So if x0 is obtained here, start from x0. So that is the overall way in which interior point method is structured. And then one more final point that we have not discussed is that what about equality constraints? So we started our discussion assuming there were some inequality constraints. So what about if there are equality constraints of the form, let's say gx equal to h? So if there are equality constraints, then we don't actually take these equality constraints, we don't actually apply log barrier to these equality constraints. We are only applying log barrier to the inequality constraints. For the equality constraints, we can directly incorporate them into the Newton method actually. So if you remember, suppose that you have a problem of this form, gx equal to h. Now in fx, assume that I have included the f0 of x and the penalty and so on. So let's say you have this problem and you want to apply Newton method. So if you recall the KKT conditions for this, what are the KKT conditions? Ax star equal to b, the primal feasibility, and the first order optimality condition, which is that gradient fx star A transpose nu equal to 0 if nu is the dual variable associated. So these are the KKT conditions, which means that the Newton step can be modified as, so the Newton step is written as minimize over v gradient f of x transpose v plus 1 by 2 eta v transpose Hessian f of x v, right, or I could say xk. So the Newton step at k xk is given by this, and in this case, because we have an equality constraint also, we set this equal to 0. So then we can solve this, we can actually carry out the update by solving this and finding v, which is the step direction, and that would be written as, sorry, I should write here not a times v, it was actually g times v. So then I would write here as Hessian of f of xk g transpose g 0 and v w equal to minus eta gradient of f of xk and 0. So what is happening is that I will start with a point which already satisfies gx equal to h, and all the Newton steps will be projected along the direction of the null space of A. So we will keep it in the null space of A so that it always, if we add it with the previous one, it always stays in the range space of A. Right? So we start with a point which is feasible and always remain feasible with respect to this gx equal to h constraint throughout. So that is the case for equality constraints. So equality constraints are directly handled. We don't actually have to do anything extra with these. They just get incorporated within the Newton method. So that's all for the interior point method. We have seen the basic idea, the theory, as well as some practical aspects. And if you actually implement the interior point method, you will learn some more about the parameter tuning and other aspects. So that's all for the optimization algorithms as well. And that is all for the course also. Thank you.